Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the world's first civilization, Mesopotamia. So first you may wonder what a civilization even is. Um, Civilizations are complex societies and they have cities, organized government, art, religion, class divisions, and a writing system. So within a civilization, there's probably going to be a river valley, or you would like one somewhat close. They're important because of farming, trade, and cities. You need large, if I could talk, that would be awesome. But with farming, you can feed large amounts of people. Obviously, with trade, you can get goods and ideas from place to place. And then cities, as they grow up in these valleys, they become the centers of the civilization. So Mesopotamia was known as the land between two rivers, and you can see in the map kind of where Fertile Crescent is like slanted. There's two rivers going up, one right under Fertile Crescent, and then one exactly opposite of it. So Mesopotamia was the world's first civilization. There were two rivers that allowed it to succeed: the Tigris and the Euphrates. Also, the Mediterranean Sea was to the southwest, and the Persian Gulf was to the southeast. Within Mesopotamia, there's something called the Fertile Crescent, which in the spring the rivers would flood. So this left behind rich soil for farming, kind of like with the annual flooding of the Nile in ancient Egypt. The problem was that the flooding was very unpredictable, though, here in the Fertile Crescent, unlike ancient Egypt. And so it would flood one year, but maybe not the next year. So every year, farmers were just in constant worry about their crops. One thing they used to help with their crops was irrigation. They learned to build dams and channels over time that could help control these seasonal floods. They also built walls, waterways, and ditches to bring water to their fields. This way of watering crops is called irrigation, and it allowed the farmers to grow plenty of food and support a large population and not have to worry so much about that flooding. So in the top picture, it's kind of like what modern day irrigation is like. And then the bottom picture is what it would have looked like back then. So the first major civilization in Mesopotamia was a region called Sumer. And you can see in the map where it is the orange part within the green part, not too far from Egypt and the Nile. So food in Sumer. The Sumerians grew several kinds of crops. The most valuable one was barley because it was used to make flour and bread. And then also dates were very valuable. They were eaten once ripe, or else they were then dried for future consumption. And they also made an excellent wine that the Sumerians liked. Here's some pictures of the top two pictures are what dates and barley look like once they come off the plant, and then the bottom two are what they look like when they're still on plants. So a city-state. Each Sumerian city and the land around it became a separate city-state. Each city-state had its own government and was not part of any larger unit. There were social classes in Sumer, the first being the upper class, which had your kings, priests, warriors, and government officials. Then you had your middle class, which were the artisans, merchants, farmers, and fishers. They made up the largest group. There were also, as you can tell, they were more of the working class. And then you had the lower class, which were the enslaved people who worked on the farms or in the temples. So part of the writing, it's one of the characteristics that a civilization has, was back then called cuneiform, which the Sumerians actually invented. And there you can see a tablet with the cuneiform writing. So cuneiform, just like any type of written language, develops over time. And one of the first things was pictographs, and then it changed to rotated positions of the pictograph, and then it slowly became the actual cuneiform signs. And you can see there's a couple how the first pictograph slowly changed into that cuneiform writing. And here you have the cuneiform alphabet. I feel like I would be there forever trying to spell even my name, which is only 4 letters. One of the important pieces of literature that came out of, and the most famous piece of literature that came out of the Sumer civilization was the Epic of Gilgamesh. An epic is a long poem that tells the story of a hero. In this epic, the hero was Gilgamesh, and he was the king, and he would travel around the world with his friend, and they would perform these great deeds. Well, when his friend dies, Gilgamesh searches for a way to live forever. Poor Gilgamesh, so sad. The Sumerians also had quite a bit of inventions. They invented what we now know as the wagon wheel, the plow, sailboat, a number system, and geometry. So, and when you get there in high school and you're mad that you have to learn geometry, now you know who to be mad at. And they also gave us our 12-month calendar. So here's just some pictures of the wagon wheel, sailboat, and the plow, what they all look like back then. So in 2340 BC, Sargon conquered all of Mesopotamia, and then he created the world's first empire. And an empire is a group of many different lands under one ruler. Sargon's empire lasted for more than 200 years before it finally fell to invaders. One of the last things about Mesopotamia was Hammurabi, and Hammurabi is best known for his law code, or what would be called a collection of laws. They're very strict. For example, Law 195 was, if a son strikes his father, the son's hands shall be cut off. So imagine if you talk back to your parents, what would happen? It's probably a good thing that those laws aren't still around today. So hopefully you enjoyed learning about Mesopotamia and Sumer and Gilgamesh and everybody a part of that civilization. And we will discuss this further tomorrow. Have a good night.